The ABCs and 1, 2, 3s are important, but all of that book knowledge isn't going to guarantee that they're going to have success in high school and beyond. But there are some life skills that they can start practicing in middle school and maybe even master that, while they may not guarantee success, it's going to set them up well. And I'm not talking about things like, can they form a line and how do they know where to sit? Which are questions that I've had people ask me if my kids know how to do. No, skills that I'm talking about are things like how to use a calculator. Now, this may seem really basic, but a lot of homeschool families focus on paper and pen and mental math in the elementary years. And we're a family who doesn't introduce calculators in the elementary years, but by 6th grade, I like to start having them use one and become fluent with it. And here's why. How to use a calculator and how to do the math, those are different things. And I don't want the higher math skills to be impeded because they can't find where the square function is on their calculator or how you put in parentheses. So I like to introduce that in middle school and get them fluent with it so that they already have that muscle memory when they go to use it in the higher math. Another skill that's really important is knowing that your emails to your instructors, to your extracurricular leaders are not texts. These digital native kids have such a fluency with technology, but they've grown up with it in a different way than you and I have, right? I didn't get email until I went to college. And in my world then, or in my mind, I just took my letter writing skills and adapted it for email. But a lot of these young kids take their text skills or their YouTube commenting skills or such and put it into emails. And knowing how to write one with capitals and capitalization and grammar, etc., is important. But not just that. We had an incident where Matthew had emailed his biology teacher. It was a good email, but he'd emailed her on a Sunday night about a lab activity, which was exactly what he needed to do. And then the next morning at like 8:30 or 9, he emailed her again asking for the information. We had to have a discussion that like Sunday night to Monday morning is not enough time to allow for a response. And this is a really easy skill for them. A few reminders, general guidance, and they're going to get it. But for many of them, they just need that. They need to be taught that explicitly. Another important skill is how to write a really strong paragraph in a variety of formats. Now, ideally, your middle school kiddo has mastered or will master during middle school a 3 or 5 paragraph essay. That's great to set them up for high school. But even if your kiddo is not there yet, getting them to be able to write a really strong single paragraph is going to make it so much easier to adapt that skill to a 3 paragraph or 5 paragraph because it's just adding on to it. When Elizabeth went to college, the longest paper she had written was about 2.5 pages. In college, she regularly had to write her freshman year 3-page, 5-page essays. And it wasn't so hard for her because she already had those skills. It's just writing more. Same goes with paragraph writing. If your kiddo can write a good thesis, a middle part, and a conclusion sentence, they can take that and adapt it to a 3 paragraph. And middle school is such a great time to do this because you can have them write a summary of what they learned in science this week. For history, you can have them write an argumentative response to something they learned and have them take the opposite view. That's a skill that they are really beginning to develop at this age, is seeing things from other viewpoints. Some weeks I have my boys write a 1-paragraph response to one of the brain food videos that they watched that week. And if you don't know what my brain food videos are, something I've been sending out to my email list every month, a calendar of free, interesting tidbits, usually videos for homeschool teens. So the link for that is down there. The more paragraphs you can get your middle schooler to write, the more fluent they're going to be at it, the easier it's going to become, and the easier it'll be to develop longer writing skills. And speaking of translating high school skills to college, when I went to college, one of my biggest struggles was how to properly structure my days and my weeks. I had been in public school all my life, and everything, my days were dictated. Get up at this time, be at school at this time, finish, spend your evenings doing extracurriculars and homework. And I wasn't great at managing it all, but I got through it. Then I went to college, and suddenly I had a lot more unstructured time, and I had to figure out how to manage it all. And I'm 47, and I'm still trying to manage it all. So working with your kiddos to learn how to estimate how long schoolwork is going to take, and by that I mean the individual subjects, to include transition time in their days, time for packing up their bags for sports or whatever extracurriculars they have. Planning in those extracurriculars and how that all fits in their schedule is a really important skill. And for some kids, it comes pretty naturally. But for other kids, they need that explicit instruction. All three of my kiddos have needed this pretty explicitly taught, and we're having various levels of success with it. Elizabeth was easy, as oldest children often are, but my boys have needed it in different ways, and we're still working on it. But it's a skill that we keep practicing so that when they go to whatever they're doing after high school, in high school, and adult life, they have a foundation for that skill. And speaking of skills to build a foundation now, but they're probably not going to master, is the skills of knowing when to persevere and when to change gears. There are going to be times when you know your kiddos and you know that they just need to be pushed a little bit more. 5 more minutes of math and then you can go. 10 more minutes of history and then you can be done. There are also times when you're going to have to pull them back and say, done. No more math, no more whatever. It's not productive. You are not learning. You are frustrated. And these are skills as adults that we really need as well. Because we get into this mindset of like, well, I've already spent an hour on this project. I don't want to stop now. Maybe you've already spent an hour, but maybe at your current mindset, it's going to take 2 more hours today or 30 minutes tomorrow. There's no easy way to teach this, and it's going to depend on your kiddo and the subject and the moment. But one easy way is just by modeling it ourselves. Those things we say out loud and make clear to kids that, like, I'm really frustrated with math right now, or I'm really frustrated with this house project and I'm going to put it aside, or I'm going to set myself 10 more minutes and I'm going to finish this. Both are important and both need to be taught. Something else that's really important to teach is things like, what is plagiarism? What is stealing? What is copywriting? And these things might seem obvious to us, but again, Matthew, he was working on a history project and he mentioned that he had gotten some images for it. And a little alarm bell went off in my head and I thought, where'd you get those images? He hopped onto Google search, went to the images tab, grabbed some images and posted them. He had no idea that images could be copyrighted and what that meant. And while a history project in middle school isn't very consequential, in college last year, Elizabeth got called into one of her professors because there was an incident where her writing and someone else's writing was exactly the same. Some schools have, and some departments have, a zero tolerance policy. One time and you're out. If Elizabeth hadn't been able to prove that her writing had been up first and the other girl copied off of her, that could have been a serious issue. Plagiarism.org has a great series of videos about this, so make sure schedule in time to do this. Whether you have a middle schooler, if you have a kiddo who's already in high school, get through the videos and make this a topic that they hear about over and over. Not directly related, but ChatGPT, they also need to be taught about that as far as using it or not using it in their classes they're doing with other people. I've seen a lot of talk about that among online instructors recently. So one last thing that they need to know. We're going to get sentimental for a moment and hopefully I don't cry. But they need to know that mom is always on their side. These kids today are facing some really hard things, and not that teens in the past haven't either. But it's a different world now. And they're these first guinea pigs of going through life with social media everywhere. The younger teens today, a lot of them have had their lives plastered on the internet since they were tiny. We are trying to figure out where we do that and how we respect their kids and their privacy and how we navigate social media. And that's not touching the topics of rising costs of college and jobs and housing and all of these other things. And what your kiddo needs to know is that you're always on their side. You are cheering them on. You are there before they get in too deep into anything, and not just that you're guiding them and you're there to help them, but also that you're their cheerleader, that you want the best for them, and that in these years when they think the world is against them and they're trying to separate themselves from you, that you're still their number one cheerleader. Even when they don't act like they want you around, they need to know that. As a mom to 3 teens, one who's almost out of her teenhood, I am having a blast with these years. I have loved them, but they're not without their challenges. But when they know that I am watching them and I'm encouraging them, and then I get just as excited about their successes as they do, and then I'm ready to be here with their failures and their struggles, well, that just means a lot. So those are some life skills that I think are important for middle school. If I've missed one, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.